Hello to you, my fellow Dark Ones. How are you guys doing today? How's life? We are starting today's episode at the chemical resort because we have something very important to do. So I have been delaying something called epoxy for a very long time. We have a huge reserve, but I guess it's time to automate it. Basically, every single circuit that you see over here until the end of the game requires a base component called epoxy. Currently, we are using the epoxy circuit boards in order to make the nanoprocessors. For the next tier of circuits, which are going to be ZPM, we're going to need fiber reinforced circuit board, which comes from epoxy as well. The crystal processor also requires epoxy. And if you go to wetware, which is like the final tier, and don't ask me how you make this one, but that also requires epoxy. Anyways, the gist of it is we need a lot of epoxy. And even though we started at the chemical resort, we actually have to go to the tower. I have an issue with refined storage and importing fluids into the system, so the less fluids I get is going to be much better. And if you look at the recipe of epoxy, you might notice that we need something called hypochlorous acid. It's a combination of chlorine and water, but it does give you diluted hydrochloric acid. And I don't really want that. If I use mercury, it's going to be far more efficient and I don't get garbage. So how do we get mercury? Well, you get it from redstone and also cinnabar. If you look at the uses of cinnabar in the JI, you can't find anything. But if you look how to make mercury, yeah, redstone is there. And also cinnabar. At our ore processing, we are actually getting cinnabar. It's just a matter of filtering. And also finding that stupid filter. Your cinnabar? Yes, we keep it. And any second we should get a few dust. It's been a while. Maybe it's rare. No, I have 360,000 in my system. I guess we just got like one dust, yeah. Anyways, we want you to go inside the centrifuge. And now in return, we should be getting mercury in one of the hatches. On the space station, we do have a few drawers for fluids. This is going to be for mercury. And where is the mercury? Yes. So you go in, some upgrades, we lock you, and somehow find the stupid controller. I guess you're the one. Yeah, so we just link you. It's a higher priority, so it should go in there. I hope. Nope, it does that sometimes. We have to take the fluid storage out. And over here I have a disk manipulator. Yeah, now it's going here. This is, I think, a bit of a bug in refined storage because the external storage that I have for the fluid drawers is actually at a high priority. And the drive that I'm holding the fluids has a lower priority. But sometimes it happens. In any case, it's not really a big deal. Oh, and by the way, last episode when we were making hydrofluoric acid and sulfuric acid, I forgot to install storage buses. So you be on fluids, a lower priority just in case, lower priority, and we just have to connect it. I don't really remember how much that was, but we do have the hydrofluoric acid, so we're connected. But over here we also have a network receiver. Oops, good thing I didn't break it. Dude, how long should I dig? Oh, I missed. Anyways, we want to be able to autocraft everything, so let's make a connection. After making the connection, we do have a chemical reactor. Ignore the second one. We'll get to that in a moment. This chemical reactor that you see in front of you, which only has one LUV energy hash, so it works at LUV, it's taking in the chlorine, mercury that we just produced, and some water, and in return it's giving us hypochlorous acid. It's just only one output, so I'm just reading that through a storage bus, which is set to fluids and access type extract only. I don't know if you can input fluids inside, but I put it on extract just in case. Also, I have finally listened to you and we have auto maintenance hatches. Thank you for making me making them. I was really lazy. It's just really a pattern, so you wouldn't really care, but yeah. Anyways, one more change that you might notice is that we do have a cover over here, which is called the infinite water cover. So instead of a sink or the one from Evilcraft, I'm just using this one. It's working fine enough. And the recipe is cheap. So now that we have the hypochlorous acid, we need to make epichlorohydrin. That is the next step of making epoxy. So we're taking in the acid, we're taking in more chlorine. And since we have already made this, I do have a few entangled blocks. This one is set to propane. So we put you over there. This one is going to be slightly painful because it's gonna give me 3 outputs. I can't really lock the outputs, so we'll have to do some gizmos. Anyway, circuit number 24 with some sodium hydroxide. Are you working? Hydrochlorous acid, chlorine, propene, and sodium hydroxide. Why you no work? Maybe it does need a circuit. I'm not really sure. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I changed the position of the converter and I forgot to connect it. But yeah, salt water, epichlorohydrin, and hydrochloric acid. I don't know if they have fixed the output hatches issue in your version or not, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a 2x2 drawer locked to all of these 3 fluids. We put it over there and connect it using ultimate mechanical pipes. So yeah, all the output hatches are empty and we're controlling the fluids. Over here I'm using a storage bus on an LUV output hatch because it's just one fluid and that's the only fluid that we need. Over here, I can't really do that because I need to electrolyze the salt water and I need to import the hydrochloric acid, so it's gonna get clogged up. In this way, I think it's going to be fine. Anyways, I am importing the hydrochloric acid into our system because we do have a massive drawer for it. The salt water is entangled to a block on top of our electrolyzers over here so that we would be able to have a buffer later on. The electrolyzers that we have over here are making us chlorine, and eventually we are going to run out of gas tiers. So this is going to be a decent buffer. For the epichlorohydrin, what we're going to do is that we're going to have an external storage. You didn't need any of these things if you could have just locked the output hatches, but it's perfectly fine. We are 50% done with epoxy. Now we need the biphenyl A. Biphenyl A is a combination of phenol, acetone, and hydrochloric acid. So I do have another chemical reactor. We're exporting the hydrochloric acid, and we do have two more entangled blocks. One of them is for acetone and the other one is for phenol. So something like this should start working. Yep, biphenyl A and diluted hydrochloric acid. I hate that part. I don't really want the diluted hydrochloric acid, but yeah, it also needed circuit number 1. Oh, and by the way, I did switch everything which was LUV to IV because, well, we had a few extra ones since I have switched the energy hatches, and I thought these things are not running most of the time, so why not? They don't have to be that fast. Although I just had a thought. Let us get an LUV output hatch. Well, actually, 2 of them. And yeah, diluted hydrochloric acid goes over there, and biphenyl goes over here. So I can just void one of them. So here is a fluid trash. Oh, that's not good. No. I was voiding phenol. No, I was not voiding phenol. That doesn't auto output. Yeah, in the trash we can have a whitelist for diluted hydrochloric acid. Yeah, biphenyl is just gonna stay here, and we can read that using a storage bus. I don't think it's gonna mess up, because it's just 2 outputs, and if you have a teeny tiny bit of biphenyl inside, which I believe we should always have, then the diluted hydrochloric acid should always go here. But that was almost the last step. Now we need to start making the actual epoxy. The 2 fluids that we just got are going to be exported into 2 input hatches, and we are also going to have an input bus for sodium hydroxide. And I need more casings. And if we add the output hatches... yes, epoxy and salt water. So like the previous one, we're going to read the epoxy using a storage bus. And for the salt water, I think we can just entangle a block. You know, this is a locked drawer, so salt water only goes in. It should not clog up the system, is the thing. Because as long as we have epoxy here, salt water has nowhere else to go. That is our full automation of epoxy, but now we need to move on. We need to start automating the circuit boards. Well, we have already automated one of the circuit boards, you know, the epoxy printed circuit board, which we're using in order to make our current tier of circuits. But there are a few more that we should be able to automate here. The rest have to be done in a clean room. We don't really have to worry about those that have to be done in a clean room at this very moment because, you know, they're UV age. But at least let us advance as much as we can. First things first, we are going to need a pattern for epoxy, which goes inside my fluid solidifier. No. I'm making the ingots, then the sheets. Yes. This is a better pattern. I really prefer to keep everything standard. So you go in, and when I'm talking that we have tons of epoxy, look, these were the ones that I have made manually. We do have a very small automation over here, which is making us the printed circuit board. I think we should be able to remove them. But let us take care of something very important. For the next tier of circuit, we are going to need reinforced epoxy resin sheet. That requires fine borosilicate glass wire, and obviously the epoxy itself. And the borosilicate glass required something that we didn't have. Boron. Since I have started fixing our ore processing, now we're getting boron, so it's not a big deal. Another thing is that in order to make the borosilicate glass, we need to pulverize glass. I do have a stupid macerator here, but it's incredibly slow. And besides, that's not the only thing that I have to macerate. At our ore processing, we do have a multi-block macerator. Maybe I can use that one. Where are the cables? Up there. I guess this is gonna be easy. We just need to have one input bus and a stupid crafter. And then I can just put the patterns inside. This is gonna be super fast. Well, technically speaking, with some speed upgrades, it's going to be super fast. However, I also need to set some filters in order to import everything back into our system. Because I think it just stays in the QIO network. Yeah, that's gonna be easy. Don't you worry. Also, why am I getting dusts? Something somewhere is clogged up. Oh, you are clogged up. What is this? Oh, I think it's a byproduct of indium, and I did not set filters for that. My bad. It's a good thing I came here. We're getting so much garbage. I got the borosilicate glass wire, but I just realized I could have just used raw carbon fibers. There was a second recipe which I did not see. But that is perfectly fine. I have 3100 boron. And I think we have set up the ore processing last episode, so this should be fine. Anyways, from the circuit boards, we cannot make the multi-layer fiber reinforced circuit board because that requires a clean room, so you're off the list. But these are the ones that we can make outside the clean room, so let's take care of them. Also, yeah, you might notice this is a chemical bath recipe. It's not a chemical reactor. So, should we get the multi-block? I have already used the exact same multi-block in our ore processing, but it has two functions and you cannot use both functions at the same time. So maybe we should have an extra one over here and use it also for radon? You know, the quantum star. I probably have most of the ingredients anyways, we just need to have the controller. And thankfully everything is already on auto crafting, so I should be fine. We have our multi-block chemical bath and a chemical reactor on top, which is going to be used for making radon. I thought if we are assembling the chemical bath, we might as well do everything at the same time. Radon is actually pretty simple to automate, we just need to have two input buses. One of them is going to export plutonium ingots, with also a crafting card so that I don't have to craft it ever again. And the other one is going to export uranium dusts, which I'm assuming, yeah, that also requires a crafting card. The only output is actually going to be radon. That's it. So yeah, now that we have a connection, we should start getting radon. I also need air. Uh-oh, my bad. That's actually not a very big deal. I have been making radon over here, so we have an entangled block. Yeah, that entangled block is hooked up to our air compressor. So, input hatch and the stupid entangled block. And yes, we're getting radon. It's not going to be the fastest thing in the universe. I'll admit that. It will always go on a loop and the only thing that we're going to lose is going to be one piece of uranium per bucket. We're not wealthy on uranium, but we have 92,000. That's far more than enough. On the chemical bath, we are going to have 3 input hatches. That was output. One of them is going to export radon. Just got the quest. One of them is going to get epoxy at this very moment. And I guess an input bus in order to do auto crafting. I don't really know how many things I need to craft over here, but I do know that one of them is going to be the reinforced epoxy resin sheet. We don't use the fluid in the recipe because it's already in the input hatch. Of course, the other one is going to be quantum eye and the quantum star. Those are the patterns that we have to use for the moment. So just out of curiosity, can we order a quantum star? I just want to see if everything is operational. Did you make it? Oh, okay. He made it. And also the reinforced epoxy resin sheet, 10 of them. We might have to wait. Oh, it's ready. Amazing. We're operational. So we're making radon, we're making reinforced epoxy, and we're also making epoxy. Now let us take care of the circuit boards. I think for that we're just going to need 2 more chemical reactors. One of them is going to be for making iron 3 chloride. We are already making it, but we want everything to be super fast and fancy. Well, as fancy as possible, I guess. It's not really rocket science. We export hydrochloric acid and some iron. We provide it with some power. And yeah, iron 3 chloride. As well as hydrogen. At this point I don't really need the stupid hydrogen, you might notice it's already maxed out. We're voiding everything. So I guess we can do the same cheaty stuff, meaning that we can have an external storage, we set you to fluids, extract only. That is iron 3. I'm really hoping this is not gonna bite me back in the face later on, but we're gonna void the hydrogen. And hopefully we will always get iron 3 chloride inside here. Why are you EV? Oh, I wanted LUV. It has a bigger buffer. Well, let's fix that, I guess. Thankfully, there's hydrogen in that one. So iron 3 should go in here. Yeah, this gives me a way bigger buffer. It's 512 buckets. We have the iron 3 chloride, but can I do the rest of them in like one chemical reactor? Because I need to convert the sheets into the circuit boards. Both of them use almost the same components. And then I have to convert the circuit boards into the reinforced printed circuit board, which almost has the same ingredients. Well, not this one. This one is the one we have to do in a clean room. It's this one. This is not a very complicated recipe. It does not require any circuits, so maybe we should use the large advanced LCR thingy, you know, the one that I made last episode and didn't use, because I don't think you can do all of those things in one. It's like 4 recipes. It's going to be slow. We want things to be fast. I'm really hoping this is not a very bad idea and I don't have to dismantle it, but yeah, we're going to use the advanced large chemical reactor. We always need to have iron 3 chloride inside, so there is an export bus. We also always need to have sulfuric acid inside, so we shall have another export bus. Yep. It's going in. For auto crafting, we will use an LUV input bus. It gives us the most space, and I guess a normal crafter will do. Let me go and try to get some patterns. Well, honestly speaking, it's not a crazy amount of patterns, it's just these 3. Let's see if it works. Yep, it's working. It's actually decently fast. I can't export items fast enough. Oh no, it's because it has to make foils. Okay. we're good. And it goes back into our system. Perfection at its finest. The only question is, do we also get the fiber reinforced circuit board? That is going to be required for the next tier of circuits. What? Ew, I never made a pattern. That's my bad. I have set in the patterns. Let's see if it works. Yep, it's working. Amazing. So the old setup that we had over here is redundant. We can remove this later on. The only actual problem that I have is that I can't make annealed copper, which has to be done in an arc furnace fast enough. There is a multi-block version, right? What kind of a stupid coil is that? Never mind. Actually, I'm an idiot. I can make it fast enough. It's just that you need speed upgrades. Yeah, much better. This is decent. So last episode we had a few bottlenecks in order to make nanoprocessors. Let's see if it's any faster. It's actually way faster. Way faster. Okay, we're good. This one is stuck because I ordered 1000 annealed copper. That's not really a big deal, but the rest of it, the circuit is just amazing. We already made 21. Okay, I'm actually happy. So these guys are off the list. Always for advancing to the next stage, we are going to need a brand new circuit and a brand new metal. We can't really do both of them in this episode, so we're just gonna focus on the metal. It's a very long and tedious process, and it's part of something called the Naquadah line, which is also something that we cannot finish in one episode, so we might as well try to get some Trinium. At least we will finish that part. And I guess since this place is getting a teeny tiny bit laggy, after getting the Naquadah line set up, we're just gonna call it a day for this structure. Then we do the rest somewhere else. Anyways, let us start from scratch. We're going to need something called antimony trioxide dusts. You would be able to get this from a blast furnace from Tipnite, but that's not really ideal for me, because I have an automatic ore processing and I do get the antimony, so we will go with this recipe. It's just antimony and oxygen. As usual, ladies and gentlemen, our job starts with 4 chemical reactors. What else is new? I guess for the moment we're also going to try and run them at IV. If it's slow, we will upgrade them to LUV. I have never made this line, so I have no idea if the speed is good enough or not. Just a bit of a side note, I think I should avoid using dimensional tanks, cause do you see, it causes lag. And it's really not just the one. If you have 2 of them in your world, they're going to cause twice as lag. I think it's just best to avoid them. Using export buses is going to be a teeny tiny bit slower, but it's going to be more lag friendly, I think. Anyways, let us get to antimony trioxide. That's the first item that we need. What we want to do is that we want to export oxygen into the chemical reactor, which is incomplete, and then antimony into an input bus. And I guess we just have an output bus, and yes, we're getting antimony trioxide. That was the first step. And that was the wrong place. Yeah, let's move it here. I do need to use it later on. That antimony hydroxide goes into a barrel and then goes into the input bus of the second chemical reactor. The second chemical reactor is also going to take some hydrofluoric acid, which we made last episode, inside an input hatch. And in return, it's going to give us antimony trifluoride. And obviously water. It's only 2 outputs, so we don't really care about the water. We can just void it like so. And that's what we need. The antimony trifluoride dust that we got, with some more hydrofluoric acid, it's going to give us something called fluoroantimonic acid. And that's what we need for the Naquadah line. As usual, I did use LUV output hatches so that we would be able to have a bigger buffer, and we're going to have an external storage. As for the hydrogen, I think we're just gonna void it. I'm just going to set a filter so that we don't void the acid by accident. Boo! Are you still with me? Good. I just wanted to wake you up. But I did call this a Naquadah line, and everything that we have done so far didn't include any Naquadah. But don't you worry, we have a 4th chemical reactor. Yay! Now, we have to take the fluoroantimatic acid, mix it with Naquadah, and this is what we're looking for. Impure enriched Naquadah solution. So obviously 1 more input hatch, 1 more input bus. I don't have a huge reserve of Naquadah, but we have to start somewhere. You export. No, you export. Yes. Now the fun part is I have to find that stupid acid. Oh, you are the one. This chemical reactor is going to give us 3 outputs. So I guess we go with 2 LUV outputs and hopefully an output bus. We can cover the rest. Do you work? Oh, it doesn't work. Do you know why? This is the only exception. This has to be LUV. So wait a minute, I can have 1 more IV energy hatch. And maybe connect you and hope that we don't run out of power. Oh, these are inputs. I have so many hatches on me, I get confused. It's this one. But are we getting it? Yeah, oh, it takes 30 seconds. That's not good. I mean, maybe that is good, but 30 seconds is a lot. Let us change that one to ZPM. I was expecting around 15 seconds, but It's now 8 seconds. Well, it's fine. We're getting all the garbage that we wanted. But the impure enriched Naquadah solution is the main garbage that we wanted, and we need a centrifuge. Oh my goodness. But we're getting close, don't you worry. To finish this part of the Naquadah line, it seems that we just need to have a multi-block centrifuge. It can also be just a normal centrifuge, and 2 blast furnaces. I just realized that we need 2, so I started making the second one. Can you share walls? Nah, it's gonna look garbage. Yeah, we're going to go with something like this. It's not that horrifying. Besides, blast furnaces are cheap. Semi-cheap. All the machines are set, and I do believe they do have power, so let's get the items that we need. And we are going to do this step by step. The first thing that we need is the impure enriched Naquadah solution. That one has to be exported into the centrifuge. Are we getting anything? Yes. Very slowly. I'm very scared of using speed upgrades. Because I am using so many export buses, import buses, I'm afraid if I speed up everything, it's going to be laggier than pipes. But anyways, the enriched Naquadah is going to give us 1 fluid, and that was the power which I just broke, and a few items, so let us have an output bus. Yes, we're already getting them. This is actually what we need in order to progress further. Trinium sulfate dust. That is for the ZPMH. But that is actually the sulfate. We need one of the blast furnaces in order to convert it into hot trinium. Oh, it has to be LUV. It is LUV, but it's barely LUV. I'm sure the system is going to mess it up, so we're going to have 2 input buses on the blast furnace. One of them is going to be for the trinium sulfate, and the other one is going to be for zinc. And if we have an output, it should start working. No, because that is a hatch. We need a bus. Yes, it started. It does take 38 seconds. It's fine, because I don't really think we're getting it that fast. Later on, when we have mass production of LUV energy hatches, I'm going to upgrade this. Besides, this is passive. It's going to run at all times. The second blast furnace that we have is going to take care of the titanium trifluoride dust. That's going to give us titanium as well as our fluorine back. So we should export it into one of the input buses. In the other bus, we're going to export hydrogen, and then we're going to have an output bus for the hot titanium, which I guess we just import. And yeah, you might notice we're getting our hydrofluoric acid back. We have taken care of everything that we are getting over here, except the impure Naquadah solution. We're not really going to go super crazy after this, because we just have to put it inside the centrifuge, and we're just gonna do that. But in return, we're going to get indium. That makes me a bit interested, because I hate our setup of indium. But I think, yeah, I need to have an extra output. Do I? I'm getting it here. So the first fluid gives you enriched Naquadah. Oh, the second one gives you Naquadah. Sorry. That's Naquadah. It's getting very confusing, and it's a little bit scientific. But yeah, here's the Naquadah. And yes, we are getting the indium phosphate. Perfect. I guess that's going to be a source of indium. Talking about indium, we have quite a bit. So the goal for today was to get trinium, and we already have it. But first things first, let's clean it up. Well, it's not amazing, but at least everything looks neat and clean from the front. Don't ask me about the back, but you don't really have a choice. Anywho, let us go back to the base. Get the trinium. We have 35 ingots, that's perfect. It has to be cooled down using liquid helium. Maybe I should have set a pattern? However, you should remember that trinium is not actually the main thing that we want. We need to macerate it first. So apparently there's also an ore. We don't really have access to that ore, so this is how we would get it. I have already set up the pattern in order to process trinium. Now we need this, Naquadah alloy dust. This is exactly the metal that we need for the ZPMH. It needs trinium, osmiridium, and Naquadah, and not the circuit. This is going to allow us to start making the machine casing. Can we have like 64? Probably not. What is this? You don't know how to make... How? I never set a pattern. Okay. My bad. Do you know why? I'm using this recipe. I didn't... Oh, I knew there was this recipe. It was LUV. Okay, well, to be honest with you, this is actually a far better recipe. Anyways, please give me 1 stack of Naquadah alloy. Thank you. The dust with the argon is going to give us the hot ingot, and with the helium we can cool it down. So you go in there. And if we take a look at the recipe of the ZPM machine casing, there you go. For a second I was totally scared. This is fusion machine casing. I just want this with polybenzimidazole. In order to make the actual ZPM machine hull, we also needed the vanadium gallium cables, which I did set in the patterns. So let's see if we can make the one. Hopefully, takes a bit of time, I suppose. The moment that I close this grid, it's gonna be ready. But I have to know. Oh no, Naquadah alloy takes a lot of time. Oh, the recipe is IV, it takes, I don't know, 10 seconds in LUV. So yeah, it takes a bit of time, then you have to cook it. We have our first machine hull. Perfection at its finest. Also, I think it's fairly obvious that at our chemical resort, the machines over there are going to clog up, because we are getting the different types of Naquadah solution and we have to process them further. But before that happens, we have plenty of time, and I guess we would be able to make a few ZPM machines. It has been a while later and I am actually recording the next episode, but I thought maybe I should give you a very small update. I don't think you're going to remember any of these changes if I tell it in the next episode. So first off, the blast furnace which is going to process us Trinium is now ZPM. I just changed the input hatches. Secondly, I had to install a parallel control hash for the centrifuge because we were getting so many fluids. I also added a huge buffer for enriched Naquadah solution as well as Naquadah solution. And now everything is working super fast. Relatively. This is not our entire supply of Trinium. I have ordered a lot of Trinium. The problem is that I forgot to do something at our base. I just logged back in and I have to reset some of the machines. But now that I was here, I thought I'm just loading this chunk over here only for these two thermal evaporation towers. You know, these guys who make us brine, the fluid. So I disconnected two of the thermal evaporation towers to see if it affects the rate that I'm getting salt. And so far it's keeping up. So yes, we have enough brine, the fluid. I guess I can remove these ones. We don't need them. Life is way better if you have less garbage in your world. And I think I also have to switch the gates from power. You know, they actually cause a lot of lag because they're like ender chests. So every single operation that is being done on the same channel is also reflected in every single gate. This is why it's laggy. A flux point on the other hand is not laggy because it just powers the machines that you want it to, which in our case is going to be our brine fabricator, not the fluid. And of course, the final thing that I wanted to mention is that previously we used to have a different source of indium. We used to get small piles of indium dust from sphalerite, and I think it was galena. Well, I have removed the setup, and it was a very laggy setup, I guess. But now that we are having the Naquadah line, we have a far better system. You know, we're just getting indium phosphide. And I think the only thing that we have to do is to mix it with calcium. Yeah. That gives us indium. The calcium, on the other hand, has to be electrolyzed and we get calcium and phosphorus dust. Phosphorus dust cannot be processed any further, so we can input it into our system. So if that is the case, let us have a conveyor, an item filter. We add it to the conveyor and we will put calcium in it. The calcium phosphide, obviously. So now if I get another advanced electrolyzer, it should go in. Yeah, exactly. We just need to import them back. Amazing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's also a good time to wrap up the episode. Next episode, we're going to make ZPM circuits and officially enter a new age. So thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. Till the next one. Bye bye.